Stop scrolling because we have the most delicious fall bread for you. That is pumpkin monkey bread. If you've never tried it, here's your recipe. Take a look at the final result. It is so delicious. You are going to want to keep having a few more bites because it is tasty. And you can just grab a little bit and you can either dip it in some cream cheese frosting, you can use any icing that you want. But we are going to show you how to make pumpkin monkey bread today. Let's jump into the bread. So we're just starting off with a 1/4 cup of honey. This is a yeast bread, and I spray my little cup beforehand with some cooking oil. That way my honey all comes out. And I'm going to add to that a 1/4 of a cup of water, and I'm using hot water, and I'm going to use 1/2 cup of milk. You can use a milk of choice. I'm just going to give that a little whisk. And this is going to be our base for our yeast to grow in. People ask me lots of questions about yeast. I use active dry yeast for my recipes, and I buy this at Costco. We use 2 teaspoons of active dry yeast, and we're going to let this bloom for about 10 minutes while we work on our other ingredients. So we'll just give that a little whisk as well. Separate bowl, we're going to add some of our more liquid ingredients. So of course our pumpkin puree, very important part of this recipe. And these ingredients are all room temperature and sitting out on the counter for a while so they can come up to room temperature. We're going to use 1 egg, 2 tablespoons of butter. I'm going to give that a little whisk as well. Our yeast has been bubbling up for a little over 10 minutes, and I'm just going to add my puree mixture, my pumpkin puree mixture, in with my yeast. Now this yeast doesn't bubble up quite as much. I think it's because of the milk as it does with just water and sugar, but it's still good to go. Whenever I have a bread recipe that uses the milk or an egg or both, it's always the softest, fluffiest, pillowiest of a mixture, and it's just love it. The dough is so nice. I'm gonna add 1 teaspoon of salt in with my flour, and for my flour I'm using 540 grams. That's 4.5 cups. And I'm just going to slowly add that in, and I stir it with my fork till it's not really stirrable anymore. And then that's when I turn it out and I'm going to knead it. Now you might use 1/2 cup more or less of flour. It depends on the weather. It depends on your bread. And remember, this is bread flour. So it is a stronger flour. Bread flour is a great flour to use if you're just learning to make bread because it holds its structure a lot more than all-purpose. It's a bit stronger. Lightly floured surface. I'm going to knead this between 5 and 10 minutes, and then I'll show you what my dough looks like, and then it'll be time for it to rise and double in size. And anytime, again, that you use a milk or an egg, it takes a little bit longer for the dough to rise, I find. So it could be, you could even take up to 2 hours for that to double in size, depending on your weather. Slowly add a little bit at a time. Kind of push and pull method. So nice to knead. Reminds me of the color of scones. I have a great scone recipe on my channel for pumpkin scones too. Check that out. I'm happy with this dough. This is great. Spray this bowl. I'm gonna cover this, put it in a warm place, not too warm, no more than 95 degrees or your yeast will die. I'm gonna let this double up in size and I'll show you what it looks like. All right, our dough has been rising for about 1.5 hours. There it is, looking good. I'm gonna put that out on my lightly floured surface. Turn that out there. I'm going to roll this into a rectangle. I would say it's about 1/4 inch is what we're going for. What we're going to do is make little mini cinnamon rolls out of this dough. So I have my 1/3 cup of brown sugar, and to that I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of my pumpkin pie spice mix. And we made this homemade. So if you want to have the recipe for this, check out our channel, and we have the recipe for our pumpkin pie spice mix. It's a combination of 5 spices and it's very good. And you can use it for a lot more than just pumpkin pie, like this recipe and many of our other pumpkin recipes. I'm using a 1/3 cup of butter that I've had just sitting on the counter all afternoon. And what I'm going to do is just butter my dough with an offset spatula and place that all over. It's actually 76 grams if you want to weigh it out. So I'll just place my butter all over my dough right to the edge. There we go. Perfect. I'll put that last little bit of butter on. Okay, now we're going to sprinkle on our brown sugar and pumpkin spice mixture evenly over the top. And I kind of just sprinkle it like this. Again, right to the edge. You can also use your spatula to help you even it out. Level that out a bit. Looking good. So now what I'm going to do is cut this in long strips. I'm using my pizza cutter because it works really well. So I'm just going to cut these in about, let me measure them. Pretty thin little strips. I'm trying to get them about equal. They may not be perfect. That's okay. I will measure these for you. They are about 1 inch, 3/4 of an inch to 1 inch thick. Now I'm going to do is to cut this in thirds. So they're just not so large. And what we're going to do now is take our bundt pan and we're going to roll these all up and place them into our greased bundt pan. So I will just roll them like a little cinnamon roll, every single one of them. Roll them up into a nice little rolls and drop them in my pan. My kids like to help with this. They're very good at it. Let this rise for another 45 minutes or so. Be our little monkey pieces that will be ready to pull out of our bread. They look pretty as little cinnamon buns because when you flip your bundt pan over, you have like this nice little kind of beautiful piece of art.
Looks like cake.
Yeah, it looks like a little cake. That's right. These are going to rise up for another 45 minutes or so, and then we're going to bake it between 20 to 25 minutes. And that really depends on your own oven. So it depends on how hot your oven is. But we're going to bake this at 350. You have the first layer done, you can kind of add a second layer, towel back over, and we'll let this rise up for another 45 minutes. Our pumpkin bread has been rising up for about 45 minutes. We're going to pop this in the oven, 350, for about 25 minutes. And we will be pulling out some deliciousness. We just pulled our pumpkin monkey bread out of the oven. Looking pretty good. We're just going to whip up a little glaze here. I put my icing sugar through my sieve, and I'm going to add 5 tablespoons of milk. You can use a milk of choice. I'm just going to make a quick little glaze. Our glaze is looking pretty good. It's just a very thin glaze that we're going to drizzle over the top of our monkey bread. So I'm going to take my monkey bread out of my bundt pan and flip it over. Voila. Here we go. Here we are. What do you think of that, folks? Looking pretty good. It's a little bit warm still. So what I'm going to do is just drizzle over the top. Now I should probably put that on a plate or else it's going to be all over my counter. Just going to drizzle over our icing in whatever pattern you are feeling. So this is the perfect thing to share with friends and family. Your next gathering.
So good.
My kids are pretty excited for this. It's just a pull apart monkey bread, so you can just grab a little piece and ready to serve right now. When it's just a little bit warm, it's perfect. Hope you'll join us for our next pumpkin recipe. If you have any good ideas, put them down in the comments and we'll try and incorporate those for one of our 30 days of pumpkin recipes. Thanks for watching.